Events. 9th of November of 1989. This date marks the infamous fall of the Berlin Wall. On midnight of that day, East Germany's communist rulers gave permission for gates along the wall to be opened as a result of days of mass protests. After decades of partition, East Berliners surged through cheering and shouting and were greeted by West Berliners to the other side. Nelson Mandela, as a leader in the African National Congress, was a Protestant because of apartheid, and he went to prison in 1963. After 70 years, he was released in February 11, 1990. The Soviet Union was dissolved in December 26, 1991 into 15 separate countries as a result of the Declaration No. 142H of the Soviet Republics of the Supreme Soviet Union. In September 11th of 2001, series of airline hijackings and suicide attacks were committed by 19 militants associated with the Islamic extremist group Al-Qaeda against targets on the United States, the deadliest terrorist attacks on American soil in U.S. history. The attacks against New York City and Washington, D.C. caused extensive death and destruction and triggered an enormous U.S. effort to combat terrorism. After spending 9 months on the run, former Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein is captured in December 3, 2003. Saddam's downfall began on March 20 of this year, when the United States led an invasion force into Iraq to topple his government, which had controlled the country for more than 20 years. In January 9, 2007, Apple Inc. CEO Steve Jobs unveiled the iPhone, a touchscreen mobile phone with an iPod camera and web browsing capabilities, among other features, at the Macworld Convention in San Francisco. In June 12 of this year, Omar Mateen, a 29-year-old security guard, killed 49 people and wounded 53 others in a terrorist attack hate crime inside a Pulse, a gay nightclub in Orlando, Florida, United States. Globalization. Globalization is a process of interaction and integration among the people, companies, and governments of different nations, and it's a process driven by international trade and investment and aided by information technology. Terrorism. Terrorism is the unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially against civilians, in the pursuit of political ends. Unipolar world is a term used when one superpower affects strongly the rest of the world economically and politically. Digital era. This is the historical period characterized by the existence of digital technology. Why did the globalization emerge? I think this is because human beings felt the need to expand and communicate between countries. Besides that, the population growth demanded bigger trade. In most cases, what caused the terrorist attacks of 20th century? I think many of them were caused by political issues, such as persons or governments trying to dominate. How does the end of the Cold War relate with the unipolar world? I think this was because before the end of the Cold War there was a bipolar power, the USA and the Soviet Union, but after the Cold War, the Soviet Union dissolved because of the unconformities of the citizens, and the USA kept growing powerfully, so it became the most influential country that is today. How has the digital era influenced today's society? Thanks to improvements in technology, it's easier to communicate and to trade goods or cultural aspects with other countries. So now we can just expand our culture and our products. This trade between countries had an economic and cultural impact among societies that unifies customs and fashions as well as affects political issues. Nowadays it's easier to know what's going on in other countries, and we can know what's going on everywhere. And we are very informed about political and economic issues. Thank you.